welcome back to my channel. Today we're just going to talk about why snakes as a pet. I get asked it all the time, Michelle, why? Why would you want a snake as a pet? Aren't you so worried that they're going to break out of the enclosure and go choke you in your sleep? Or if you open their enclosure, they're just going to spring out and bite you in the face. Aren't you worried about those things? No, not at all. I'm really not, because all those things are really kind of movie theatrics. They're not reality at all. As you can see here, Aria is a perfectly calm, even-tempered little snake. She's not interested in popping out of her enclosure and choking me to death. She couldn't even do that if I helped her. Those kinds of things aren't issues. You have much more of a threat from a dog or a cat or a hamster or a bird even than you do with a snake. A little bit about me. I've been training dogs for about close to 20 years professionally. I've trained them to do all kinds of things, but most of my clientele has always been for behavioral stuff. Through all my years, I've heard people complain about barking and digging and their dogs peeing on the floor, and they're so energetic, they're jumping up and knocking over their old mother or knocking over their kids, or they're tearing up things and they just can't take it. They just want an animal that will just sit with them and watch TV and not do all this extra nonsense. Unfortunately, dogs don't come like that. That is also movie theatrics. That is a poor example of what you would expect from a good pet dog or anything. That just requires a lot of work and a lot of effort. That's something that you don't have to put into a snake to achieve. These guys aren't going to be chewing up your trash. They're not going to be shedding all over your clothes and in your couch. Of course, yeah, they do shed, but they don't shed like a dog or a cat or any other like furry coated animal would shed. So, if you're one of those people that just does not like hair being everywhere and that kind of thing drives you crazy, this is a really good option for you because they don't shed hair. As it turns out, there are no furry snakes, so you don't have to worry about that. The other thing that I've experienced in my career is a lot of people worry about the amount of time that they spend out of the home. Maybe their job doesn't really provide them to be able to be home enough to be able to have a dog as a pet, but they do like some type of companionship. Well, snakes are again another really good option for people that don't have a whole lot of time to spend with animals. They're not longing for your affections. They will tolerate it if you decide to pick them up and hold them, but they're not going to be waiting and get really antsy and then start tearing up the house. They're not going to do that. They're just going to continue to do their little snake thing. Whenever you get home, you get home. Their daily requirements, include water changes, maybe some spot cleaning in their enclosures, but for the most part, they're really self-sufficient. They don't eat every day. Depending on what species of snake you have, you would feed them anywhere between once a week and maybe even once a month. It depends on what kind of snake you have. That is also maybe a really good option for people that don't have the amount of time to spend feeding animals every day and then having to supply food for an animal that eats every day, which can be pretty costly. Snakes are rather inexpensive to keep. They could be more expensive depending on what kind of upkeep you have, and of course if you get more high-end morphs, the actual snake cost itself could cause your expenses to be a little bit higher, but there are lots of different options. The normal variations of all these breeds would probably be the cheapest, but they're also still absolutely gorgeous. In addition to all that, I've had a lot of issues too with people that have disabilities that might not be able to physically take care of the needs of an animal. And snakes make a really good alternative for that too. Even if you're not able to spend time with them every day, they certainly won't mind. A ball python here, where they just pretty much hang out and sit with you, it doesn't require a whole lot of physical exertion for you to be able to get this animal out and spend time with it. Aria here, I could just throw her over my shoulders like this, make a video for YouTube. Or I could go do my dishes, fold some laundry, watch a movie. She just hangs out with me. I tell you what, it probably won't blow over too well if you decide to throw a grown dog over your shoulders and walk around and try to get some chores done. It's probably not going to blow over that well. And I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that at all. Yeah, don't do that. Also, they don't have nails. I really want to point this out that you don't get scratched up by snakes. I have in my career been totally sliced apart by my clients' dogs. Jumping up on me, even cats. I've had them jump up on me and just kind of scratch me, some with lizards and rats and ferrets and all kinds of other species of animals. They will just cut you up. Well, snakes don't have any legs and they don't have any nails, so they're not going to scratch you up. Now, could you get scratched up by a snake? Yeah, if they bit you. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. Can you get bit by a snake? Absolutely you can. They don't have any other way of defending themselves. If they get to the point where they want you to back off, then you might get bit. Or if you stick your hand in there and they think you're a rat, you might get bit. But with anything, use a little bit of common sense whenever you approach an animal. If they display some type of signs that they don't want you there, then leave them alone. Try again another time. Don't just go into your enclosure just to feed your snake. Go in there and take them out and handle them, get them used to you. Eventually they'll turn into Aria here, who just trusts me and we can hang out and do whatever. Having respect for your snake will get you a long way in terms of building a relationship with them. People think that snakes like to bite a lot more than they do, and they don't. The other thing that a lot of people don't really know about snakes is that most of your pet variety types of snakes don't have, well, none of them have fangs. You know, that's more for your venomous varieties. Now, all snakes are going to have some type of teeth. Your non-venomous snakes particularly are going to have some type of teeth. There are some species of snakes that have pretty long teeth, but those are not ball python or a corn snake. They've got a bunch of little tiny teeth that are at the roof of their mouth. They're little tiny, and it really just kind of feels like the barbs on a Velcro, like on the hard piece of a Velcro. If they bite you, that's pretty much what it feels like. You might bleed a little bit because snakes have like a natural anticoagulant in their saliva, so it does kind of look worse than what it really is. But you have probably scratched your knee or done more harm to yourself than a snake would ever be able to do to you, unless of course you're fooling with giant wild snakes. But as far as like pet snakes go, these guys are not going to be able to hurt you. I would much rather be bitten by a snake than anything else. Bring me a snake any day, I'll take a bite from it. I do not. Puppy teeth are the worst, and I have had, I think most of my fingers are just scar tissue from all the years of me having my hands in puppy mouths. Dogs in general slobber all over you, you know, you don't have to worry about slobber from a snake. They're not doing all that craziness. The point is that snakes are a really simplistic type of animal. They're nothing to be feared. Just respect snakes and they will respect you. I mean, look at Aria. Isn't she just the sweetest? I also train service dogs for people with disabilities, predominantly disabled veterans. There's a task that's called deep pressure therapy that we teach the dogs to do, which requires them to put pressure on certain parts of your body that will help you calm down. It'll apply pressure on certain pressure points and help your blood pressure kind of, you know, start slowing down so you calm down. Snakes kind of, especially ball pythons here, who's a little bit more of a heavy-bodied snake, just kind of does that naturally. It's a very soothing sensation to just sit here and have like the pressure of an animal just resting on you. I realize that if you're terrified of snakes, the idea of that is absolutely ridiculous. But whenever you come to terms with the fact that there's absolutely nothing to worry about, you would know if she didn't want to be here. She wouldn't just be sitting here and then all of a sudden try to get me. Snakes want to get away. They don't want to stay and fight, especially since their only defense is their mouth. They don't want to hang around with the giant person with only their mouth if they have a chance to get away. If you're just sitting and hanging out with your snake, there's nothing to concern yourself with. But just the pressure, just the feeling whenever you touch them, it's a very interesting texture. It's a very calming sensation. And that's something that might be really soothing to a lot of different types of people. I would like to bring my snakes to go visit some elderly patients that kind of just sit in their bed and they don't have really any interaction. A snake is a really good option just to kind of sit with them. I know, again, that sounds ridiculous, but whenever you get rid of the stigma that they're dangerous, they're just another little buddy to hang out. They're also really great first-time pets for like kids and stuff. Now, I recommend anywhere between like 8 and 10 if you're going to get a kid their very first snake, mostly because I like them to be intellectually aware enough to be able to do a little bit of their own research and read about what they're getting involved in and learning the proper steps to go about responsibly gaining an animal. But maturity level plays a huge role in those kinds of things, and just use your own discretion. Because of all the other things that we talked about with snakes, they do make a really great option of teaching responsibility to first-time pet keepers. They're not as demanding as most any other species of animal. Even fish are going to cost you more effort to take care of, just with the water changes and all that stuff, than you're really going to experience with a snake. This is a ball python. She is the larger of the two most recommended snakes. There's a corn snake, which is a smaller variety that has lots of other really good reasons why they make a great first-time pet. If you have questions about that, let me know. I'll make a video and talk about whether or not, a corn snake is a better choice for you or a ball python is a better choice for you. And it's definitely something that a child can do, as long as, of course, they have supervision, and that's with any species of animal. They should always have supervision whenever interacting with animals. They should be able to respect the animal that they're taking care of and not treat it like a toy. Don't fear snakes, respect snakes, and if you remember that motto, it'll get you very far. But give them a chance, really. Again, I know that there's a whole lot of negative stigma whenever it comes to snakes, but it's really not like that at all. And if you just take a little bit of time out to maybe meet one and allow it the opportunity to change your mind, you might really be surprised how many people snakes would be ideal pets for. Sure, they're not little dogs and they won't bring you your slippers, but there are lots of other really great reasons why snakes make awesome pets. And this is my corn snake, Elvira. This is the smaller of the two most recommended species of snakes. She is a corn snake. She's a year old, so she's a year younger than Aria was, but of course she will stay much, much smaller than Aria the ball python, especially whenever they're full grown, though they do get a lot bigger than this, but they're not nearly as heavy-bodied as a ball python. These guys are really great options as far as pets go, even for children, because as you can see, look how totally harmless this little snake is. If I tried to help her hurt me, she still wouldn't be able to. Like, come on. She's so cute too. Look at these really cool patterns. I mean, isn't that fun to look at? They come in lots of different colors, really anything to suit your fancy. This one is a aneurystic acorn snake, and they do change a little bit. With every shed, I do tend to see some differences in her overall color, which is really fun watching as they grow. Really cool little pets, you know? A lot of people might see a chameleon as being less scary than a snake, but this is pretty typical. Of course they get docile, or they can be docile, but they're a lot more feisty than my snakes are. And they also have little tiny nails on all their feet, and they need these to climb, and so you can't really trim them, and it hurts pretty good whenever they're holding on to you, which is not really a problem that you have with snakes. But as you can see, just because she's a chameleon doesn't mean that she's any more safe than a snake, but actually in comparison to the rest of my animals, she's actually kind of feisty. You would have a much bigger chance of getting bit by her than anyone else. It's okay. Alright, so to wrap this up, give snakes a chance. They're not the evil little hellspawn that everybody makes them out to be. They really are very cool pets. Whether you're young, you're old, a man or a woman, snakes really do make awesome alternatives as pets. Thanks for tuning in to today's video. If you guys would do me the pleasure of liking this video and subscribing, and please hit the little bell icon so that you can be here whenever I upload new videos. Thank you again so much. Bye. And get a snake. Emerald tree. Why am I not thinking right?